AI is not going to take your job. People using AI will take your job. But my God, this bloody visa put me through so much in those 2 years.
What should recent graduates be doing right now to prepare legally for the worst case scenario?
Many of these companies have laid people off in the last year, and the moment they lay people off, they have to freeze hiring. 30% of the code at Microsoft is now written by AI.
Having like some skill set related to AI and ML can also help them land a job, because majority of companies are now looking for people skilled in like AI and ML. Let's say if you're on H1B and you get laid off, you only have 60 days, right? So what are some of the options for them?
7 options. I will go through them really quickly though. My O1 journey is like a movie. You know, it has so many cliffhangers at so many moments. It has a happy ending.
Can you give a brief introduction about yourself in a minute and share a bit about what you have been doing? So yeah, that'd be nice.
I do 3 things. First is I am an entrepreneur. I built this company called Unshackled, which you can see in my name. Unshackled is a startup that is focused on helping talented immigrants get talent visas. And also we do a lot of other stuff to help immigrants in America. Second, I write books. I have published 2 books so far, nonfiction. I just finished writing my 3rd book, which is my first novel, fiction, 1,000 Days of Love. Very excited to launch that sometime next year. And third, I create content. You know, I love writing and telling stories. So I've been creating content on social media for the last 2 years at this point, and really enjoy doing that. So one last thing I want to say is, as part of Unshackled, we're hosting this huge event in the Bay Area, which you're coming to, happening in less than 3 months, August 15th and 16th in the India Community Center. So this will be, let's just think of it as the biggest immigrant party of the year. Like anyone that you follow on social media, immigrant founders, investors, lawyers, you'll see all of them in one room for 2 days.
That's awesome. And I wanted to understand, like, how did you go about creating this such like large event? Usually, you know, people here, like in the US, they mainly come here, they study, they focus on their primary job, and then they basically just like, then they have their family, and that's like the usual lifestyle that people have here. So how did you go about like creating this Unshackled community and now hosting this entire event? So if you want to talk a bit about that, that'll be nice.
Yeah. Oh God. I think it's just, you know, I really like to, you know what masochist means? Someone who likes to inflict pain upon themselves. I feel like all founders in some level really just like the struggle. They like to suffer along the way. There's a famous quote that says, founders quit their 9 to 5 and work 24/7. And that's very true. I think especially in the first year out of quitting my job, I just put so much pressure on myself to do something, because you're not making any money. You have to survive. And mainly more than money or any of the status thing, the thing of you quit your job in pursuit of a calling. What have you done so far? What have you done to help the world and help this place that you're in? So I think Unshackled was born very much out of frustration. I am sure you're an immigrant, you're on a visa. You know that the moment you step into this country, it's always like you have a leg inside and a leg outside. You're never fully here. And of course, you're also not back home. You're right here. But you don't have the same privileges that an American has, which makes sense. I understand why, you know, we don't have that. But it also causes a certain level of frustration and stress. Needing to worry about finding a job within 90 days of graduation. Not getting picked in the lottery. And then having to let chance decide if you want to work here or not. Getting your visa denied, getting getting detained at the borders. There's so many things you have to think about at the back of your mind always. I think Unshackled doesn't solve any of that, because these are all systemic changes. But we give a space where people can walk in, meet other people who feel that frustration, and meet people who have navigated this in a very creative way. So it's like, hey, I've crossed this river. Now let me help you cross it. That's why I think that's Unshackled in a nutshell, what we're trying to do.
That makes sense. That makes total sense. So how did you go about like meeting your co-founders, if you have any? And did you first started creating content, or was it like something like creating this business was the first priority? So how did you go about this? How did you get started?
I do have co-founders. I have two co-founders, Nikin Taran and Ratna Kumar Uday Kumar, who I just call RK. They're
Mm-hmm.
both EB1 recipients and O1 recipients, actually.
Yeah.
So O1 and EB1 are talent visas. I'm an
Mm-hmm.
O1 and NIW, National Interest Waiver recipient. Don't have an
Mm-hmm.
EB1. Uh, Honestly, I met them only a year ago. Almost exactly a year ago is when we met for the first time. And we decided that, hey, I think we should join forces and do this
Mm-hmm.
together.
Yeah.
Because I had published a book called Unshackled. I had
Mm-hmm.
created a community called Unshackled.club.
Mm-hmm.
I did a book tour called the Unshackled Campus Tour. So I did a lot of these very different things to educate immigrants. They had set up a company called greencard.inc, which is focused
Mm-hmm.
on like a concierge program helping people get the talent based green card.
Correct.
So they came to me and said, you already built this incredible community. We've built a process to help immigrants. So maybe we should
Mm-hmm.
join forces. And
Yeah.
so we did that, and that's how we came together.
That's amazing. That's amazing. So let me also give a brief about what I'm currently doing. So I came to the US in 2019. I did my master's here from UMass Amherst. Then I started working in
Mm.
Amazon, and now I've been working at TikTok for last 2.5 years. And I believe that I also kind of like achieved my first phase of American dream, which was to like earn well, work in big tech, experience the US culture to some extent. So I feel like I did that pretty well so far. When I was pursuing a master's, like when I was choosing the colleges to pursue masters, I applied to actually 19 plus universities. I did
Mm.
research for each of those universities by my own, was proactive to make the most of my time in the States. Before I even came to the US, I was thinking about what will my program look like, how will the courses look like in each semester. So I was like very proactive in all of that. And I feel that majority of people, don't think deeply before coming here. They feel like their friend has done this degree, so I'll also do it. So they don't actually have the clear answers for what their plan is, let's say 3 to 5 years down the line, how they want to make the best of the study abroad experience. So this is why I started interviewing people who have experience studying here, who have been
Mm.
working in the States for a few years. They are the people that a study abroad aspirant I think should look up to see what's possible, what's the reality, and what is not. I started that page Umang Abroad in September of last year, and I've been basically talking to people who work in, let's say, tech. I just do like very organic, like street interviews and ask them about what they love about US, how was the study abroad experience, where do they currently work, how much do they make, and what are their actually living expenses here, so that people can get all this idea
Mm.
before even coming abroad, before deciding
Mm.
if US is the country for them, because they need to decide holistically. And this is also why like I will also be launching my study abroad course, which is called like Understanding Your Dreams, because it will help them realize that their whys and why nots. Like why do they want to pursue masters? Why do they want to study abroad? And why not? Why not they should they like study abroad? Should they pursue masters? And understand deeply what US is as a country, understand its culture, understand like what can their potential savings be 3 to 5 years down the line, understand what are the possible like immigration paths in detail. And once they understand that, they should decide if they finally want to come to the US or not. Because right now, given the situation in 2025, it's not like you can just come here, pursue your education, simply get a job and like be well off. It's not the situation right now. You need to think very deeply across all these dimensions and think across like different other countries too, and then finally decide if US is the country for you. So yeah, that's why I felt like it has been my passion and I wanted to help people too. So that's why I felt like starting a page and now creating a course for it. So yeah, that's a brief about me.
Awesome. Sounds great.
So we will now move on to the next like section here, which is like regarding H1Bs and F1s. So I wanted to understand like what should recent graduates be doing right now to prepare legally for the worst case scenario, because a lot of graduates, they aren't able to find jobs. Someone who is actually about to graduate is not able to find jobs. So what are some things that according to you they should prepare legally to ensure that they don't get deported, like they maintain their status here?
Okay, let's do scenario by scenario. If you're an
Mm-hmm.
F1 student, you just graduated, and most people graduate in May. So I'm assuming people are just graduating. You
Correct.
have 90 days to find a job
Mm-hmm.
before you must leave the country or figure something else out. There's a few options. Number one, you can volunteer on OPT. I don't know how many people know this, but I don't care. I think it's worth repeating over and over again because you can volunteer. You don't have to find a paid job. And this reduces the stress in the form of going out there and reaching out to startups where you eventually like to work, but then pitching them as, hey, I have all these skill sets. I've been following your work for a while. Here's how I can help you. And I want to just be an unpaid intern for a while until you feel like you like my work and you're ready to pay for it. And startups appreciate that because startups don't have a lot of money in the beginning, especially unfunded ones. Second, you can start a company on OPT. Highly recommend checking out the self-employment OPT, which is literally meant for aspiring entrepreneurs who are students. This is so flexible that you don't have to take a salary. You can work 100% for your company. You can own 100% of your company, and you don't need anyone to sponsor you. You can do it yourself. That's why it's called self-employment. Third option is specifically to find a job. I would say look for sectors that are hiring right now. Everyone wants to get into a Google, a TikTok, an Amazon, Microsoft. Apply there. I'm not, I'm not saying don't do it, but understand that many of these companies have laid people off in the last year, and the moment they lay people off, they have to freeze hiring. So they're not going to be hiring as much, but there are so many sectors that are actively hiring. I actually published this list of 100 startups hiring in agriculture, healthcare, construction, logistics, and so on. So I'd recommend people to check out my profile and get that list. So I think these are my 3 quick advices for students. But in the end, I just feel definitely use the volunteer option to stay until 1 year. And then you need to find a job that pays you. But you still get a runway of 12 months to figure your life out, which is more than enough time for everyone to get a job.
That's a valid point. And in this case, I also feel like riding the wave of AI, like getting a job, having like some skill set related to AI and ML can also help them land a job, because majority of companies are now looking for people skilled in like AI and ML. So having some of those courses during their masters can also help them gain that experience. Working on some projects during their like masters can also help them eventually like land those internships or like land those future roles, full-time roles. So
yeah. And I think I don't know where I saw this quote, but it said something like, AI is not going to take your job. People using AI will take your job. So I think if you're a product manager, definitely looking at how are product managers using AI out there. If you're an engineer, obviously AI, I think Microsoft said 30% of the code at Microsoft is now written by AI. So looking into how is that happening, I feel like, every single job out there, there is a very smart way to use these tools. And even as a writer, I'm writing a novel right now. It's not like I'm writing the novel completely away from AI. I'm using AI to brainstorm every single day as I write it.
Yeah, that makes total sense. And even though like right now, like this past week, Microsoft laid off 7,000 people across the US. But still, they are hiring for ML engineers. They're hiring for AI engineers. So you have to look on the brighter side and think like where you can basically like get these opportunities in the AI ML space instead of just worrying about that, hey, there are layoffs happening. So
yeah. And one caveat there is, of course, if you're a product manager, you can't apply for an ML engineer role. You just don't have the skill set for it. But still looking into roles as a PM in industries that you may not have thought of before. Instead of just tech, look at other industries that are booming right now.
Definitely. So now let's move on to H1B holders. So because a lot of layoffs are happening these days, and for, let's say, if you're on H1B and you get laid off, you only have 60 days, right? So what are some of the options for them?
Okay, great question. You got laid off, you have 60 days, what do you do? 7 options. I will go through them really quickly though. And hopefully I can remember all 7. First and foremost, you can look into a garden leave. A garden leave is a leave where they keep you on payroll for another month or 2, but you're not technically working there. It's kind of like a severance, but they keep you on payroll instead of giving you severance. So if you're working for a small startup, push your manager to ask them, is there any way you can just keep me on for another month? Second is the B1 or B2 tourist visa. This is
Mm-hmm.
probably the option that most people resort to because it's just a very straightforward option. And
Yeah.
USCIS came out and said, hey, if you got laid off, they gave a list of options and this was on top of that.
Okay.
So they recommend people to switch to a tourist visa.
Mm-hmm.
For this, I would say there's a website called filemyb2.com.
Okay.
FILEMYB2.com. They have some good
Mm-hmm.
resources. Third option is the O1 visa. I've talked
Mm-hmm.
so much about the O1. I feel like I've bored people to death on my profile. But if you don't know what O1 is, go to my profile. You'll see tons of videos on it. It's a talent based visa. So
Mm-hmm.
it's not probably going to work for most people, but for few of you who have awards, you judge hackathons, you publish papers, and so on, you can technically try to get an agent who can
Mm-hmm.
represent you in the country and they will sponsor an O1 for you. You still need to get job offers and some sort of work that you'll be doing, but
Mm-hmm.
you don't need to go through an employer. An individual
Mm-hmm.
can sponsor you as well.
True.
Then we have, let's see, the S1. You can go back to school. Not
Mm-hmm.
ideal. Who wants to go back to school again?
Good.
But there are some degrees you can do that's, 9 months, it's low effort, and it
Yeah.
just keeps you in the country if you really want to do that.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and the next option would be the J1 visa. I'm not really sure. Once again, this is a very minority case. The J1 is meant for research scholars. Once
Mm-hmm.
again, you need a sponsor. You can't self-sponsor. But
Mm-hmm.
there are a list of 1,500 J1 sponsors in the country, and you can go through them to try to get a job at one of the sponsoring agencies. So that's an option.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Anyways, those are 5 options I can immediately think of. Am I missing something that you can think of?
I think you talked about O1, you talked about B1, B2, you talked about going to F1 again. I think the other options, maybe it's not like, let's say, you can live in the US, but it's also like you can move to another country. Let's say if you find a job in Canada within that time, you can move there briefly.
I left India.
Mm-hmm.
I decided to leave India and I spent 9 months in 2023 in India
Yeah.
before I came back to the States on my own. It was the best thing that happened to me.
Mm-hmm.
There's this stigma around, oh, I've put so much of my money, life, and time into this country
Yeah.
and this place. How can I go back from all this? What will my friends
Mm-hmm.
think of me? What will
Yeah.
my relatives say? But I'm telling you, all of those worries, they fall apart within the first week because
Mm-hmm.
you're only going to care about the fact that I'm home. I can do whatever the hell I want here. There is no
Mm-hmm.
restriction. At least that's how
Understood.
I felt. I felt like I don't have to worry about immigration in India. I can do what I
Mhm.
want. And
Yeah.
that's so liberating. So people may be
True.
surprised that I think going back to India would also just be the best option.
Mm-hmm. I agree. I agree. Awesome. I also want to ask you, like, are there like any overlooked visa categories or strategies that people do not usually explore?
Yeah, quite a few. The three that come to mind are the self-employment OPT. Once again, it is meant for anyone who wants to build a company. You can do it for 12 months without worrying about needing to make money, getting a
Mm-hmm.
sponsor, and owning 100% of it. So, very underused because I've met at least 3 founders in the last few months who told me if they had known about this, they could have started the company a year earlier than they did.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Second is the O1. I mean, for me, the O1 is so obvious because I've talked about it for 2 years now. But I know that people still ask me, what is the O1? They
Mm-hmm.
don't know about it. The O1 is a fantastic alternative for people who don't get chosen in the lottery
Yeah.
and they only have a year left or 2 years left. They have to figure something out. And they have done some decent work in their field.
Mm-hmm.
They've been, like you, for example, you've been an ML
That's it.
engineer for 2 years now. I'm
Mm-hmm.
sure you've done great work at TikTok and Amazon. You probably
Mm-hmm.
get paid a high salary.
Mm-hmm.
And you already check off 2 categories potentially.
Mm-hmm.
And you just
Yeah.
need to get probably 2 more. You need 3,
Mm-hmm.
but it's good to get 4 or 5.
Yeah.
So most people can build that in 12 months. That's a long
Mm-hmm.
time to do something.
True.
So O1. The third is the national interest waiver. This is an interesting one because even lesser people know about the NIW than O1.
Mm-hmm.
The NIW is not a visa. It's a place in line to get a green card someday. Generally, the green card pathway works like this. Let's say you're working at TikTok right now. You want to get your green card. TikTok will have to first go through something called the PERM process, PERM, wherein they have to find an American, or they have to show proof that they couldn't find an American who can do your job. And hence, they really want to petition for you to be a permanent resident. And that process takes up to 2 years sometimes.
Right
You
now
have to
it's
wait for
even
2 years,
Yeah.
even longer.
Yeah.
And the worst part is the moment a company lays off people, they have to stop the perm. They cannot file green cards. So what do you do then? You want to get the green card, but the company can't do it for you. NIW solution.
Mm-hmm.
You can self-sponsor the NIW.
Mm-hmm.
I got the NIW. I self-sponsored just by myself. And what you have to show as proof is your work has to be in the national interest, and you have to be really good at what you're doing. And I won't go into more details. I would recommend people to go read about this online. But I just think it's such an underused option to skip the perm process and just do it yourself.
Yeah, I did that too. So right now I'm a NIW holder too.
Oh my God. I didn't know that.
I mean, I got recommendation letters from TikTok, from Amazon, and like from my like one of the professors during my masters. And I made a case like I'm whatever work that I've done at Amazon and now at TikTok was in the interest of US, and especially given that because I had like higher salary, I was working in the AI ML space, and I had like some decent impact across all of this. Plus, I had some publications. So I was able to basically get approval very quickly in the situation where majority of people were getting rejected because last quarter of last year, there were like a lot of rejections, and I could see it from like attorneys posting on LinkedIn too. They're getting a lot of like rejections for the like students' cases. But despite all of that, my petition was approved like without any RFEs or anything. So maybe it can be luck, but it just worked out. Yeah.
I definitely don't think it's just luck. I mean, it's clearly hard work. There is some luck for everyone, for me too. But how did you come across the NIW for the first time? Who told you about it?
I think I did all of this research probably like online. I don't even remember, like maybe I would have seen some YouTube video or maybe would have like read some article online. But because I like usually follow like all the content creators regarding study abroad too, so including you. So I feel like I get all this idea from following and like just keeping in mind like what are some options that I can do down the line, because I am myself like who wants to like make the most of my time here in the US. So I want to look for the best paths forward. I started with the perm process within TikTok, but it was taking so long because I started in 2023 early, and even till now, my perm hasn't been like approved. Can you imagine? It's been like over 2 years as of now. My perm did not even get accepted. On the other hand, I filed my EB2 NW last November, and I got accepted in this January. That is it. I got in, I have the priority date, everything is done. So people just do not know about all these things. They don't make the most of it. And I feel like, as you said, like these three are definitely underrated categories. In fact, I didn't even know about the OPT self-employment thing, which I just got to know from you.
Really? Yeah. And that's saying a lot, right? Because you're not an average immigrant. You have interviewed so many people, you've done extensive research, and you still hadn't come across this. So that's,
So, it's like very people, just do not know about majority of these things.
Umang, I actually want to ask you, since you've been through both the PERM process and the NIW process, and you're an ML engineer, so I want to know what was the most surprising thing about putting together the NIW application, and was it an easy thing for you?
To put across the application, what I realized when I was working with a law firm, and this basically hired an external law firm to work on my application. It wasn't through TikTok because they had been already working on my perm process. The perm process was pretty straightforward. I just had to give them basic details, give them basic, they knew like the roles and responsibilities. They had to get some details from the manager, and that is it. But the issue was like it was taking so super long. With EB2 NW, I had this law firm. They first evaluated my profile. Actually, anyone who is interested in this can actually get a free evaluation from any of the law firms. They offer like such kind of programs, and you can just email them, hey, this is my profile. Would I fit for the EB2 NW? And they will respond to you with free, like, so you can get an idea where you stand currently. So that is first thing that you can do. The challenge that I noticed wasn't in like putting together the application, but it was the experience that I had with the law firm. The communication was super slow over the emails. It basically, I started this process around April, and initially I also slacked a bit, but the response from them was like very delayed. Like they weren't available for 1 to 2 weeks, and then even once the application was filed, I wasn't getting a lot of updates from them. So that thing, if I would have like hired a better law firm which would have been like very communicative, let's say over WhatsApp or like over call, instead of just responding 3 to 4 days after an email, that would have been much better like experience. But in terms of putting together an application, given that I already had some publication, I had a very high salary at my level. I was in the AIML space, and I proved it using, let's say, because the US is investing a lot in AI and ML. So I proved it through bills, like government bills, like which have been passed in the Congress regarding AI and ML. Like, they are investing so much into it. So I made the case through that, and like made the case through self-driving, like Tesla is investing a lot, like other things, other companies, big tech companies are investing a lot in AI and ML. So those were like some of the proofs that I showed, like why AI and ML is important, how my work relates to them, and like why this entire industry is working in favor of the United States and its future. So all in all, like it wasn't difficult to put together this application, because I also had like good letter of recommendations from TikTok and from Amazon, because I was an ML engineer back in Amazon too. So I got the recommendation letters from directors. I had like built like better relationships with them. Same here, like I got recommendation letters from the tech lead, senior applied scientists, and so on and so forth. So I was able to build this entire like profile, showing my research, showing my big tech experience, and it wasn't that hard if you're in the AI/ML space. But let's say if you are in a space which is like dying right now, it's like not performing well. If you're, let's say, a typical software engineer who has just worked on web development or something, in that area, it is difficult to prove the national interest POV, but unless and until you have a big impact within the company. So unless you have that, it can be difficult because your domain is not helping you. So that is one thing which I feel like having the right industry can really push your application way forward. And in terms of the bar of EB2 NW, that I also think is very similar to O1. It's not a very high bar as like, let's say, EB1 category. So if you just apply, you're more likely than not will get accepted for it. You just have to do all these basic things right, create this holistic application, check off these 3-4 like different things like high salary or like having strong like experience and so on and so forth. So yeah.
Interesting. I'm so glad you talked about the lawyer, because one of the questions I always tell people to ask a lawyer before you sign up with them is, how long will you take to respond to my emails? How often will we check in with each other on a call? What is the like response time during weekdays if I have to get on a call? Because I also went through a really bad experience with a law firm for my first O1, which, long story, I actually withdrew my O1 application. But they would take weeks to respond to an email. And I thought that was normal because I didn't know any better. Because you didn't know any better. But it's insane. I mean, anyone who's taking more than 2 days to respond to an email, it is not normal. And I just want to tell people, ask the lawyer up front for SLAs, like service level.
That's a great question.
Whatever they're called.
Yeah, that's a great question to ask, and like overall great point.
Yeah.
I also want to add one more thing regarding the EB2 NW. Majority of these law firms, they offer this package of, if your application gets accepted, only then they will charge you money. So in the end, you don't even end up paying a lot. And apart from, let's say, you're paying for premium processing as a fee, or like preparing for like paperwork and all those fees, minus that, if your application gets rejected, lawyer is not even taking that money. So there are a lot of law firms which offer this deal. Let's say for my case, it was like, you have to pay the lawyer $5,000 if your application gets approved. Otherwise, you don't have to pay anything. but like you'll have to pay for premium processing and like other
Wait,
fees.
did they really say that to you? They gave you that deal?
Yeah. And they give that deal also based on your profile. If let's say you have a strong profile, only then they offer you such kind of deal. And let's say if you don't want to take this deal, then the price of the attorney is even lower. So let's say they will not give you that offer and they will only offer you for $3,500 like flat charge, whether your application gets approved or not. So this is like one option as well, which is available
Whoa.
for immigrants. Yeah.
That's so cheap. I've never heard of someone charging that cheap, 3,500. The
3,500
market
just
rate
for like
for,
the lawyer fees, and on top of that, you have other
of course, I
expenses.
mean,
Yeah.
other fees will always be there, but the market average for lawyer fee is between $8,000 to $10,000. So the fact that
Mhm.
you got someone, and maybe you can recommend, if you're okay with sharing some names, maybe share
Yeah.
some names so people can go talk to them.
Yeah, I mean, I can share, but again, like my experience wasn't like great in terms of communication,
Yeah,
right? So that is
yeah,
like what bad thing about that too. So that is why I
right,
wouldn't like recommend that as well in the end, because the overall experience won't be that bit like that good even if you take.
right. But yeah, I think the TLDR is ask your lawyer for response time before you sign up with them, and make sure that is in writing. So you'll have proof
Mhm.
that they said they'll respond by a certain time.
Awesome. So I want to ask you, like, what was your O1 visa journey? Because you've mentioned that you got your first O1 visa, which I'm assuming you also got the second O1 visa. So if you can talk about that journey, maybe you would have talked
Yeah.
about it already on your page, but yeah, if you can share it again, that would be nice.
My O1 journey is like a movie. It has so many cliffhangers at so many moments. It has a happy ending because I'm
Yeah.
here right now about O1. But
Mhm.
my God, this visa put me through so much in those 2 years. Um, I applied for the O1 in 2022, early 2022.
Mhm.
I got my first punch in the gut RFE in February 2022. Took 3 months to gather even more evidence and then respond back with what I thought was a pretty strong case.
Mhm.
And then the main punch comes. This is like the interval of the movie where you're like, oh shit, the hero is not in a good place.
Yeah.
So they sent me a denial notice.
Mhm.
And it hit me really hard because I'd spent $15,000, a year
Yeah.
of my life, and hundreds of hours into this process. And
Mhm.
I think it really just makes you very demoralized because it's someone telling you in painful detail why you're not extraordinary. You are
Mhm.
not extraordinary at all. That was a very difficult 23-page document to read. And then I realized, okay, now we come to the second part of the movie where the hero gets up, realizes the previous way of thinking is not going to work anymore. Let's figure out how to exist in this new world. So,
Mhm.
long story short, I applied for the O1 a year later. And this time, I don't make the same mistakes. I have a really good application. I create a very coherent story and narrative, telling them why I am indeed extraordinary. I'm one of the experts in talent mobility because I have 2 books now that I've talked
Mhm.
about helping people cross borders. I had a grant. I had so much press coverage. I had judged a few events.
Yeah.
I had published so many articles. So I had I think I applied for every single category, all the 8 categories. I had something.
Okay.
This time around, I do get the approval in 3 days. I get the result
Wow.
back that it's approved. But the story doesn't end yet because, you know, there is something called Act 3 in a movie where there's a final part right before the climax. It feels like all is lost. That happened for me when I think everything is great. I got the O1. I send in my passport for a Dropbox. And then
Mhm.
I receive a letter saying your visa has been refused. I'm like, what the? I got the O1 approved. What do you mean it's
Mhm.
refused? And then they say you have to come in for an interview now. That was a very nail biting 45-minute interview where they made me just wait for 40 minutes. I'm thinking, obviously, I'm not getting it. There is no way I'm getting the O1 after this.
Mhm.
After all of like the RFC, the denial, the refusal, who's going to give
Yeah.
it to me? And then this officer calls me and says, your passport will be returned next week with the approval.
That's it.
And that's it. I walk away thinking, I don't know what just happened, but holy shit, this was not worth it, man. Like the kind of hell that I went through to get this visa. Um, but okay, I mean, now it's all good. I'm very happy I got the O1. It's super flexible, and
Yeah.
I can come anytime I want. It's great. But
That's
it was a 2 year long journey.
wow. You've been through a entire like sinusoidal wave, I would say, like up and down, up and down. But I'm glad that it all worked out.
It makes for a really great story, though. I mean, whoever's going to watch this, I hope they have a good time listening to that story.
I want to ask you, like, what's one myth about the O1 visa that needs to be busted?
Um, can I say like 3 myths? Because I can't think of just one.
Go ahead.
Myth number one, if I get the O1, I'll get the green card. No, the O1 is not a green card. O1 is simply a work visa. You still have to file an EB1 pathway green card and still get it approved. And there's no correlation there.
Yep.
No correlation between if I get my O1, I'll get my EB1. Nope. Myth number two, O1 is only meant for founders. Not true at all. In fact, I would say most people who get the O1 are not founders. They are actresses, dancers, singers, engineers like you. They are product managers. Founders is just a small percentage. Myth number three, if I get laid off on the O1, I don't have to leave the country.
Yeah.
That's not true. It's still a work visa. If you get laid off, you have 60 days to leave the country. So those are top.
Awesome. What kind of profile or documentation helped make your case strong? Was that, do you think, the press coverage, or was that any other factor that you feel like was the strongest for your application?
Hard to say. I mean, as I said, I had evidence for all criteria, but my strongest ones were number one, authorship. I had 2 books, some 20 plus places where I published in newspapers, magazines, blogs, very strong authorship. I had really strong press coverage. I had at least 20 press coverage articles on me across different places. I had decent judging because I had judged a scholarship, a competition, and I also peer reviewed a few journal papers. So I had some 5 judging instances. And then I had high salary. I was making a high salary at Salesforce in the past.
Thanks.
And finally, 5th main category would be awards. I got a grant for $50,000 from a very big foundation. So that was my 5th big one.
That's awesome. Are there any underrated free resources or services that you would recommend to immigrants in 2025?
Wow, that's a really great question. Underrated services for immigrants in 2025. Let me think.
Free resources, basically. Yeah.
I just want to say this. I have literally published my entire book for free out there, Unshackled. I published in chapter formats. So you can go to my profile and read a free guide on the O1, EB1, H1B, CAP, Exit H1B, F1, any visa you can think of, you'll see a free guide there. So I just think, if you want to know about immigration, go check those out. Second, I don't know if this is an immigrant specific one, but ADP List, I just think it's a beautiful website and idea. ADP List is a place to find mentors who are willing to talk to you for free and help coach you. So great place to go find mentors and partners who can practice interviews with you. Like you can practice for mock interviews with these people. Really good. Third, free resource for immigrants specifically. Let me see. I feel like joining a few newsletters that are immigration specific would be great because the newsletters keep track of the latest free webinars happening across the industry. So Unshackled has a newsletter. We send every week and we tell people at least 2 or 3 events happening for free that you can join in the next few weeks. So like Unshackled, LegalPad has a free newsletter. Aditi Paul has something. So there's so many others. Just join all of them. Keep tab of what's happening in the industry. So,
totally. That makes sense. And I also want to add one more thing to this is like, follow all the content creators like UD, you, or like Harnoor or Parth, or like even me. Yeah, just follow them, like understand like what they are like posting about. You can get a lot of knowledge from that too.
Absolutely. And it's not even you, right? Like, it's definitely you. People should follow you because you are doing something interesting, which is interviewing people who are living ordinary lives. And I don't mean ordinary in the sense of they're, just ordinary people, but they're living the lives that most people are aspiring towards.
Yes,
That
exactly.
most of the people in the bell curve, because most people in the bell curve are not looking to be founders. They're
Mm-hmm.
looking to be well contributing citizens at a job.
True.
So I think
Mm-hmm.
you're giving them that service. Um,
Yep.
and I'll also say that all the creators you just mentioned, Yuri J, Parth, Roshni Chalani, Shivi
Mm-hmm.
Chauhan, all of
Yeah.
these creators will be at the Unshackled conference in one room.
Last question that I have for you is, what would you tell someone planning to study in the US in 2025 or 2026?
Coming to this country has changed my life. If I were to do it again, I would come still,
Mm-hmm.
even though immigration is a mess and it's expensive, there's culture shocks, it's hard to get a job, all of these inconveniences, I would still come here because, I mean, this is a personal opinion, but I feel like life is short and
Yeah.
I want to experience as many things as possible and expand my mind and
Mm-hmm.
meet people from different culture and
Yeah.
learn to unlearn all of the things that
Mm-hmm.
got put in my head when I was younger. That's just
Mm-hmm.
my philosophy. So I think if someone who's listening to this also feels like, yeah, you know what, I feel that too. My only advice would be informed. Don't be on autopilot with your own life.
Yes.
Don't be in the driver's seat of your life. Like, take control, sit in the driver's seat, go look for creators to follow, go look at how immigration works in the US, reach out to professors who want to hire you. Like, I'm just saying, don't sit back and assume that things will go well because, it has gone well so far. This is a new country and it's not a very forgiving country. You have to fight tooth and nail for everything you want to get here.
True.
I posted this Instagram reel a few months ago, which went viral for some reason, where I said, people talk about how in America your dreams come true. It is the land of your dreams coming true. It's absolutely not. It is
Mm-hmm.
not the land where your dreams just come true. It is the place where you fight like hell to make them come true.
True. True. True.
And so I just think people should be ready for that when they come here.
Exactly. That's a very solid point, and that is why I feel very strongly that before even coming to the US, when you're applying for these programs or like preparing for whatever like job opportunity that you have in the US, just put your effort into it by yourself instead of depending on some consultancies or anything. That is
Yeah.
the first step when you're controlling your decision. You are taking charge, you are in the driver's seat. So take that, do your due diligence, and then come here. And that is how you will lead your life here once you come here. So I strongly believe in that too. So great advice.
Yeah. Awesome. This was so fun just to reflect on all these questions.